Good morning. Good morning. My name is Debbie Crane Campanella, and I'm on your board. And today I'm going to share with you some fun, unique upcoming events. May 21st at 7 p.m., we're having Cozy Craft Night. May 24th from 2 to 3 p.m., we're having Brahms Liebeslieder waltzes featuring Josef Patchen and Reverend Nic. Oh, I'm not Joseph, excuse me, Joseph, yeah. Reverend Nic and Jim Nord, and the voice faculty from Augusta University. For tickets, please visit Realm. May 30th at 7:30 p.m., Final Friday Jazz, featuring Joseph again. Joseph, you're really working hard this month. And his trio and Creative Impressions. And again, please visit Realm. Jim and I are going to be at both of those events. On June 1st at 5 p.m., we have a newcomer mixer. That sounds like fun. June 3rd at 2 p.m. is a pop-up tea. And June 28th at 10 a.m. is the Augusta Pride Parade and Festival. Please come march with us and consider helping to staff our table for the festival. And one more friendly reminder that on the fourth Sunday of the month at 1 p.m. is the board meeting, the monthly board meeting, and all members are invited to observe. Okay. Enjoy the service.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta, where our mission is to create a beloved community acting together with compassion, reason, and respect, empowering us to promote a just society. My name is Chris Grushinski, he, him, and today I'm co-creating this service with Reverend Nic, Chris Maurer, the UUA Choir and Contemporary Ensemble, led by our music director, Josef, Patchen, the talented folks running our tech deck, and all of you. We're all shaping this moment together. In honor of this sacred moment and respect for each other, would you please take a moment to put your devices on worship mode? All right, everybody's on silent. If you're a first-time visitor today, we encourage you to stop by the greeters table following service to get more acquainted with the church. Our membership coordinator, Fern Smith, who was at the table when you came in, would love to chat with you and find out about your interests. The blue card in the seat pocket in front of you can be a great guide for that conversation. You're also more than welcome to join us for coffee and snacks after worship in the common room. Existing community members will know newcomers by their green or red name tags. These different colors indicate how comfortable folks are with engaging with new people as they explore a new experience. Green means, come on over, talk to me, let's get to know each other right away. Red means, I'm up for saying hi, but I'd prefer to get to know folks a little bit slower. And for those of you on Zoom, please consider staying online after the service to chat and connect with each other. Whether you're here in person or joining us virtually, we welcome and celebrate all of who you are.
Our chalice writer today is by Reverend Michelle Collins, To Renew the Spark of Imagination. Here we are together, bearers of imagination, creators of new worlds. It is our imagination that lifts us beyond despair, that whispers, what if, and dares us to answer. Today, we gather to renew that spark, to embrace the power to dream. Come, let us imagine boldly and worship together.
Would you rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn number 1003, Where Do We Come From? We'll be doing this in parts according to our sections. This will be section 1, section 2, section 3. The choir will lead you as we stop and start in numerical order. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Margaret Tuck. I'm a member of the Pastoral Care team. This is the time in our service where we traditionally invite you to come forward, stand here and wait, and I will show you where to stand, and you can share joys and sorrows that have come into your lives in recent days or weeks. For those of you who are on Zoom, you know the procedure.
What a joy and a pleasure and a privilege to share in each other's lives each week. I'm so glad that we get to do this, such an important ritual. At this point, we are going to be singing our kids out to continue their faith formation, but as we've been doing in the last month or so, we're going to do an extra little round after we sing them with our normal joy song to give the parents time to sign them in to class and get back here before we continue the service. So with that, let's sing our kids out to continue their faith formation. As we do, it takes a little bit longer. It's a good problem.
right. Let's take a moment, ground ourselves, find a comfortable position, and relax as best as we can. I want to go either back or forward to a time before city lights, before stores, a time before computers and cars, a time when the night was dark and full of terrors. The moon shines bright amongst the campfires of the sky, and you sit near a fire of your own. Around you, you can see the faces of your folk, shaded by the light of the communal fire. You can hear the insects singing and the rustling of your community nearby. Then, one person stands at the fire, spreads their arms, and begins to speak. They say, "There was a time when we fled, when we were cast out of our homes, left with nothing. We hungered and we thirsted, and nothing was given to satiate. We wandered, removed from our familiar because of what we thought. That everyone deserves to exist. That everyone deserves to be loved for who they are. That we all need each other to survive. And that all deserve justice when wronged." They continue. "These ideals did not fit and forced us from the known, separated some of us from our families. But we found this place, a safe harbor. Each of us made our way here, through the malaise, through challenges, through obstacles, to this place, this fire. Here we can sit, breathe, relax. These are the values that make us who we are, that bind us together as folk, that teach us how to exist." This person then takes their seat as silence falls over the space. A hushed, anticipatory return to the normal, and then music. The people you observe talk among themselves, strengthening those bonds, and eventually return to their homes, knowing that they are one community, bound by lore, love, and common cause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ted Newton, he, him. I am the chairman of the endowment committee, and because we have so many members here that are new, and in a couple of weeks we're going to be having our annual meeting, and because for the next 2 Sundays I will not be here, unfortunately I have to travel to Emerald Isle, North Carolina and enjoy the beach. I'm so sorry. Somebody has to do it. And Nic has allowed me to give a mini TED Talk about that's what my coworkers used to call them, about the endowment committee. And I promise you this is going to be short, but I want to explain what the endowment committee and what the endowment fund is all about, because you're going to be hearing about it at the annual meeting. The endowment fund itself is to enhance the mission of this congregation apart from the general operating funds that are used to support this congregation. So it's outside of the checking account and the savings account that are used to pay the bills that are coming in on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis. The endowment fund is a long-term fund. It is long-term investments that the church makes to support its mission and are used again for long-term investments. With the possible exception, of course, as are outlined in the endowment resolution, for extreme, temporary, and difficult circumstances, which, of course, we experienced last year when the air conditioner went out at the beginning of the summer. That is a difficult condition. And the funds from the endowment committee used to pay for a brand new air conditioner so that we can sit here without Baptist fans and sweating. Okay. The endowment committee, the endowment fund itself consists of a number of different investments, fixed-term bonds and stocks, mutual funds, etc., that generally grow throughout the year. And it is not a managed fund, which we learned after some discussions with the people over at South State Investments this year. But they have served us well. You can also invest in these funds by cash donations, stock donations. You can put this in your will, and those monies are used to invest in the endowment fund. The endowment fund is managed by this church through the endowment committee. Now, the endowment committee is a fiduciary committee. We act only in your interest to ensure that these funds that are used as investments are invested wisely and the money is used wisely so that it continues to grow. And also to evaluate any requests from any committees or any groups to make certain purchases. So there are procedures for doing that in our bylaws, and I encourage you to take a look at those bylaws. And we meet on a quarterly basis in the church, and we provide an annual report, which we will do at our annual meeting. Now I'd like to lead into our offertory. When I was about 10 years old, my family was on a religious journey, trying to find a religion. I remember finding the Book of Mormon in our library. Thank God we didn't go there. And then my parents started going to a Methodist church. My parents were married in a Methodist church. I remember that only because I was adopted. Didn't know that at the time, but I remember it. And when we went to that Methodist church, we were always ushered out before the service and before any alms were collected. But one time I sat with my father in the pew, and they made the collection, and I watched these plates being passed and all this loot in these plates. I was astonished. I had never seen so much money being put in plates as it passed by me. And then the ushers brought these plates to the minister, and the minister brought it up and placed it on top of the altar, and the light shone down from the windows, and I was amazed. I'm 10 years old, and I'm just, so I asked my father, this is true, I asked my father, and mind you, my father was a finance manager at the Martin Company. And I said, Dad, what is all that? What are they going to do with all that money? And my father said to a very literal child, and I'm still literal nowadays, that is God's money. So I sat there the rest of the service because they did not move that money from that altar. And I stared at that money and that light. And I waited for the hand of God to come down and take that money. Now, a 10-year-old child, you could have told me that that money is used to pay the minister, to pay the custodian, to pay the church secretary, that that money is used to keep the lights on, that that money is used for the people to take care of the grounds and to pay the water bill, the electricity, etc. And I would have understood that. But don't tell a 10-year-old child that that's God's money and he's going to come get it. And he had to drag me out of that church because I wanted to see that money float up to heaven to God. So let there be an offering, according to Brandon Lovey, to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope. For we are now keepers of the dream. If I could please have the ushers come up and gather the plates that we may make an offering to this wonderful community. And where are the plates?
A little bit of extra gratitude for Joseph. That was an original piece of his called Persephone. You can hear more of Joseph at the jazz concert on May 30th here. look at uuaugusta.org/jazz for tickets. Also, my good buddy Richard found these in the parking lot. Is anybody missing a set of keys with a kind of a leather carrying case? Anybody? All right, well, good luck to whomever. Actually, you know what? If nobody claims them, there's a YMCA thing on here, so I'll take it over there and have them scan it. We'll figure out who it is. Thank you, Richard. How do you finitize the infinite? That's a question I ask myself a lot. I know, I'm a nerd. But that's one of the many reasons why I chose this vocation and or it chose me. Now, while potential answers swirl inside my own head as I often go through these imaginarium moments, it's easy for me to start heading down an abstract path toward an answer, often desiring the answer. Now, this imagining isn't without value. Daydreaming about the biggest mysteries in the universe can be quite generative, if not titillating. Yet without constraints, it's difficult, nearly impossible really, to organize something approaching a coherent theological schema. Folks like Alfred North Whitehead, a polymath mathematician, philosopher, theologian, and close friend of Unitarian Universalism, have attempted to break through the barrier of so-called classic or traditional theology, which in the global West usually defaults to Christian. Now, Whitehead essentially codified a type of theology called process theology. At its most basic level, process theology proposes that the universe and everything in it is in a constant state of transformation, perpetual change, ongoing creation, and that the divine, often called God, is actively creating and created in this process too. Though ultimately far more complex than that quick description, this basic process premise has spawned a lot of other theological branches, including religious naturalism, which I know is a theological orientation for a lot of UUs, a lot of folks here. Alongside variations of liberation theology, these intersecting theological frameworks form the basis of my cosmology, epistemology, axiology, ontology, teleology, eschatology, soteriology. All right, be honest. How many of you understood every single word I just said? Right. Who's lost? Yeah. Like my last several words, Whitehead's work was and is only accessible to a few folks. It's just too heady. Whitehead? Heady? Okay. But the actual ideas and the resulting values are still valuable and deserve to be widely known. If only there was a way to make it all more understandable, relatable, warm, perhaps. Enter mythos. Okay. Maybe there need to be a little more lead up to that, a little energy. Yeah. Mythos are large religious narratives which paint a picture of how things are and which things matter. Though not necessarily supernatural, yet often so, these stories are deeply seated in a particular culture and place, both in how they're created and their long-term impact. You likely know some famous mythos, like the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, a creation story which has dominated much of Western society for a very long time, and thus I don't think I need to share too many additional details about the story itself. However, I will say the resulting truths, the resulting understanding of how things are and which things matter, have led to pervasive attitudes that humans have dominion over nature, that cisgender men have dominion over women. The only legitimate romantic relationship is between a cisgender man and a cisgender woman, that there are only two sexes and two genders. This narrative also indirectly introduced the idea of original sin, that humans are inherently unworthy. Now, we UUs know how flawed each of those ideas are, and how much harm they've caused throughout human history, how much harm they continue to cause. Perhaps I should have said invasive attitudes instead of pervasive. My friend, Dr. Ursula Goodenough, a leading voice among those with a religious naturalism orientation, who generously led worship for us via Zoom not too long ago, offers an alternative mythos, an alternative creating story, a grand narrative that she calls everybody's story. Everybody's story is basically the one that guided our meeting making 2 weeks ago on May the 4th. It's the story that somehow all life came from exploding stars and through the resulting process of evolution and emergence over millennia, something else from nothing but. The story that life began lifing, and after billions of years, that perpetual process led to people, to us, and importantly, will continue beyond us. The power of this mythos, everybody's story, is clear to me. It connects everything and everyone for all time and across time, resulting in hopefully greater respect for the kinship inherent in the interdependent web of existence. It reminds us that life is extraordinary and sacred. It also does a fine job of making process theology a little less abstract, a little more accessible. Now, I love Dr. Goodenough. Her generously genius intellect and ability to share her scholarship and wisdom poetically. And even though I believe everyone's story to be true, based on all the evidence and scholarship by folks far smarter than I am, I still don't believe humanity needs only one shared mythos. If for no other reason than I think folks, including myself, find wonder in different ways, which may from time to time point to answers which fall outside of normal scientific barriers, at least at first. It's important to continue celebrating all the imaginative mythos available to us now and those still to come, especially considering our newly stated UU inspirations, which declare, quote, direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder are primary sources of Unitarian Universalist inspiration, end quote. Outside awe for nature herself, what provides this experience better than an epic story? Sometimes so marvelous that it's easy to assume inspiration from a muse or two. I, along with billions of others, now and in the past, experience these stories as mysterious and wonderful, meaningful, inspiring. Like the Hindu tales of Krishna, Rama and Sita, Shiva and Kali, contained in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, or the pantheon of Norse, Roman, and Greek gods and monsters, often portrayed in epics like the Odyssey and Iliad, or Siddhartha's poetic path from royal son to asceticism and eventually enlightenment in the Buddha Charita, a path which includes some fantastic demon battles. I certainly find wonder in everyone's story too, to think about the fact that we are all connected to stars, that we are indeed star stuff. Yet, having one shared hegemonic story has never worked because it ends up subjugating others. Like with diversity among people, a variety of mythos to learn from and live into is healthy and generative. Plus, even if a particular mythos doesn't inspire you personally, it may still be reasonable and meaningful to others. And who are we? Who is anybody to discount an other's experience, unless they're using that experience and resulting belief system as an excuse to harm. It's once again important to remember another covenantal promise from our UU Inspiration statement. Quote, "We respect the histories, contexts, and cultures in which these sources were created and are currently practiced," end quote. Basically, we avoid appropriation and we avoid cultural imperialism. While this promise is imperative to avoid that cultural imperialism, one of 5 faces of oppression according to Marianne Young, some religious narratives do lead toward values and ethics which are harmful and can be critiqued, like the story of Adam and Eve. As with anything, cultural power dynamics must be examined as we explore mythos which seem foreign or unreasonable to us, and as we examine how those stories have an impact on the actual behavior of those for whom they are meaningful. In addition to all the reasons I've already stated for not accepting there is and should only be one mythos, one religious narrative to rule them all, even if it happens to be the most factual and or meaningful for most folks in this room, I happen to feel the best stories are character-driven. Stories with rich characters and character development tend to inspire more people, connect people within a cultural context, and really stick in the collective hearts and minds of a community, religious or not. And this is a quality conspicuously missing from everybody's story. Though Octavia Butler may not have tried to create a new mythos when she wrote Parable of the Sower, that prophetic work of fiction has become so for many anyway. The protagonist in Parable of the Sower is Lauren Olamina. Olamina lived in a walled-off community in Southern California as the world was seemingly ending around her. Wildfires, violence, and interpersonal pain were all too common. Lauren simultaneously stood with and apart from others because she really felt others' suffering, a condition called hyperempathy, which means she felt a lot all the time and was overwhelmed by it often. Sadly, raiders have accessed her community, destroyed her home, and killed her family, forcing Lauren to flee north. And along the dangerous road, she was eventually joined by others, also seeking safety. I can imagine them having a moment by the campfire, like Chris described earlier. They eventually planted a new community. They also planted Earth Seed, a new religion which recognized the only constant is change. And that loving community, a community in which folks share each other's joys and pain, is necessary to survive, maybe even thrive. I think we might call this kind of community beloved. Interestingly, the how things are and what things matter answers which emerge from Butler's imaginative story line up almost exactly with Whitehead's process theology and its offshoots like religious naturalism. And it is infinitely, so to speak, more accessible, pragmatic, character-driven. It especially leans into the idea that although change is synonymous with God and that God is both generative and destructive, we nevertheless have a role to play in that change process, that creative process, which requires a little imagination, especially when times are tough. Sometimes that creative process is best served by imagining new mythos, especially stories which illustrate what beloved community might look like in the future, kind of like Butler did. Other authors like Adrienne Marie Brown continue in this tradition, often referred to as Afrofuturism. If you haven't read either Butler or Brown, I highly recommend them both. Before drawing this reflection to a close, I'd like to share one final quotation from the inspiration statement in our Unitarian Universalist covenant. Quote, "These experiences of awe and wonder open our hearts, renew our spirits, and transform our lives. We draw upon and are inspired by sacred, secular, and scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live into our values." Live into our values. How do you finitize the infinite? Make meaning and integrate it all through your embodied values. Big stories, some very old, some new, some still emerging as our imagination about what we can practice, about how we can practice good faith with each other, our planet, and all her resources. Stories designed to explain how things are and what things matter are a really helpful way to make it all make sense. Inspire us, transform us. May the incredible imaginations which inspired and inspires those stories, may the creativity which, according to Alfred North Whitehead, may be God herself, inspire you, inspire us. And may those stories, born of imagination, divine or not, center love so that we might too. Blessed be.
Would you rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, number 196, Singer of Life. I'll play it through once.
Please remain risen in body or spirit for one moment longer as I share these closing words by Reverend Susan Van Dresser entitled, "Let Us Sing the Magic of Imagination." Let us sing the magic of imagination by which we know one another and learn the lives of eras gone by. Let us sing the magic of creation by which we build the world of our soul and teach its wisdom to others, young and old. Let us sing the magic of our lives together, holding and shaping by the movement of breath from heart to lung, all new life that is to come. Go now with singing. Go now with magic in your fingertips. Touch this world with life. Blessed be.